Saram students, today let us continue with the revision of Geography lesson number 3, Motions of the Earth. In our previous class, we had revised about rotation, revolution and leap year. Today let us revise about solstices, that is summer solstice and winter solstice. And we will also revise about equinox. Children, what is the second motion of the earth? Revolution. We know that the earth, it revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit, and throughout its revolution around the orbit, the earth is inclined in the same direction. Children, what are the four main seasons? Summer, winter, spring and autumn are the four major seasons. And what causes change of seasons? Seasons change due to the change in the position of the earth around the sun. Children, this is the diagram of the revolution of the earth and seasons. And during the revolution, as different parts of the earth are tilted towards the sun, so solstices and equinoxes are experienced. Now let us revise about summer solstice. Children, on 21st June, the northern hemisphere, it is tilted towards the sun. So the rays of the sun fall directly on the Tropic of Cancer. Hence, these areas receive more heat. And which areas receive less heat? The areas near the poles, they receive less heat. Why? As the rays of the sun are slanting. And we can see that the North Pole, it is inclined towards the sun, and the places beyond the Arctic Circle, so they experience continuous daylight for about 6 months. And since a large portion of the northern hemisphere is getting light from the sun, so it is summer in the regions north of the equator. And children, when does the longest day and the shortest night occur at these places? The longest day and the shortest night at these places occur on 21st June. And at this time in the southern hemisphere, all these conditions are reversed. So it is winter season there. And the nights are longer than the days in the southern hemisphere. So this position of the earth is called the summer solstice. So children, what is the effect of summer solstice in northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere? Northern hemisphere, it receives more heat. So it is summer in northern hemisphere. Whereas southern hemisphere, it receives less heat. So it is winter in southern hemisphere. And the days are longer and nights are shorter in northern hemisphere. Whereas the days are shorter and nights are longer in southern hemisphere. And the North Pole experiences continuous daylight for 6 months, whereas the South Pole, it experiences continuous night for 6 months. So children, this is the effect of summer solstice in northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. Now let us revise about winter solstice. Children, on 22nd December, the Tropic of Capricorn, it receives direct rays of the sun as the South Pole is tilted towards it, and as the sun's rays fall vertically at the Tropic of Capricorn, that is at 23.5 degrees south. So a larger portion of the southern hemisphere, it gets light. Therefore, it is summer in the southern hemisphere with longer days and shorter nights. But the reverse happens in the northern hemisphere. So children, what is this position of the earth called? This position of the earth is called winter solstice. So children, what is the effect of winter solstice in southern hemisphere and in northern hemisphere? Southern hemisphere, it receives more heat. So it is summer in southern hemisphere. Whereas northern hemisphere, it receives less heat. So it is winter in northern hemisphere. And the days are longer and nights are shorter in southern hemisphere, whereas the days are shorter and nights are longer in northern hemisphere. And the South Pole, it experiences continuous daylight for 6 months, whereas the North Pole experiences continuous night for 6 months. So, this is the effect of winter solstice in southern hemisphere and in northern hemisphere. Now, let us revise about equinox. Children, when does the direct rays of the sun fall on the equator? The direct rays of the sun fall on the equator on 21st March and 23rd September. And at this position, neither of the poles is tilted towards the sun. So, the whole earth, it experiences equal days and equal nights. So, this is called as an equinox. So, children, what is the effect of equinox? On 23rd September, we have autumn season in northern hemisphere and spring season in southern hemisphere. And the opposite is the case on 21st March. That is, we have spring season in northern hemisphere and autumn season in southern hemisphere. Now children, let's discuss. Why does the southern hemisphere experience winter and summer solstice in different times than that of the northern hemisphere? The southern hemisphere experiences winter and summer solstice in different times than that of the northern hemisphere because when the North Pole is tilted towards the sun, the northern hemisphere experiences summer solstice. At this time, since the South Pole is tilted away from the sun, the southern hemisphere experiences winter solstice. And when the North Pole is tilted away from the sun, the northern hemisphere experiences winter solstice. At this time, since the South Pole is tilted towards the sun, the southern hemisphere experiences summer solstice. So children, in this way, the southern hemisphere experiences winter and summer solstice in different times than that of the northern hemisphere. And children, why do the poles experience about 6 months day and 6 months night? The poles experience about 6 months of day and 6 months of night because of the tilt of the earth on its axis. And when the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, the North Pole is inclined towards the sun. So, it experiences continuous daylight for 6 months. And these conditions are reversed when the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun. So, the poles experience about 6 months day and 6 months night. Now children, let's differentiate between the summer solstice and winter solstice. Difference between summer solstice and winter solstice are as follows. Summer solstice. First point, it is the position of the earth when the rays of the sun fall directly on the Tropic of Cancer. Winter solstice. First point, it is the position of the earth when the rays of the sun fall directly on the Tropic of Capricorn. Summer solstice. Second point, in this position, the North Pole is tilted towards the sun. Winter solstice. Second point, in this position, the North Pole is tilted away from the sun. Summer solstice. Third point, due to large portion of the northern hemisphere gets light from sun. It is summer in northern hemisphere. Third point for winter solstice. Due to large portion of the southern hemisphere gets light from sun, it is winter in northern hemisphere. Fourth point of summer solstice. During this period in northern hemisphere, days are longer than nights. Fourth point of winter solstice. During this period in northern hemisphere, nights are longer than days. Children, in which hemisphere does Australia lie? Australia lies in the southern hemisphere. So, Christmas is celebrated in summer in Australia. Children, can you tell why the southern hemisphere celebrates Christmas in summer season? On 22nd December, the Tropic of Capricorn, it receives direct rays due to the tilt of South Pole towards it, as the sun rays are vertical on it. Hence, it has summer season. Therefore, Christmas, which falls on 25th December, is celebrated in summer in the southern hemisphere. Now, let's differentiate between rotation and revolution of Earth. Rotation. First point. Rotation is the movement of the Earth on its axis. Revolution. First point. Revolution is the movement of the Earth around the Sun in a fixed path or orbit. Rotation. Second point. It causes day and night. Revolution. Second point. It causes seasons. So children, there are days and nights and changes in the seasons because of the rotation and revolution of the earth respectively. So children, these are the differences between rotation and revolution of earth. Now children, let's have a quiz. Tick the correct options. First one, equinox has dash. A. Equal days and equal nights. B. Shorter days and longer nights. C. Longer days and shorter nights. D. Shorter days and shorter nights. What's the correct option? Correct. A. Equal days and equal nights. Equinox has equal days and equal nights. Second one. Direct rays of the sun fall on the equator on dash. A. 21st March. B. 21st June. C. 22nd December. D. 25th September. What's the correct option? Yes. A. 21st March. Direct rays of the sun fall on the equator on 21st March. Third one. Cycle of the seasons is caused due to dash. A. Rotation. B. Revolution. C. Gravitation. D. None of these. What's the correct answer? Correct. B. Revolution. Cycle of the seasons is caused due to revolution. Fourth one. The sun's rays fall vertically on the dash on 21st June. A. Equator. B. Tropic of Capricorn. C. Tropic of Cancer. D. All of the above. What's the correct answer? Yes. C. Tropic of Cancer. The sun's rays fall vertically on the Tropic of Cancer on 21st June. Fifth one. Christmas is celebrated in summer in dash. A. Japan. B. India. C. Australia. D. Africa. What's the correct answer? Correct. C. Australia. Christmas is celebrated in summer in Australia. Very good children, those who have guessed the answers correctly. Children, today we have completed the revision of Geography lesson number 3. So, read the lesson thoroughly and practice the diagrams. Till we meet again, goodbye children.